So the last panel of today. I'm not sure if that's the best introduction for for people who already want to call it a day or go for side events, but we're very happy that you're here. So welcome everyone. My name is Kati and I will be leading this conversation today. So let's try to keep it as lively as we can. We're trying to crack up the question of what makes a good deep tech venture to be able to commercialize as best as possible. So Europe is producing world-class science, but we're struggling with commercialization, and that's, I would say, the topic that I think most of the people in this room are very familiar with. So how do we actually turn research into global ventures is the question that we're trying to crack here today. And with me, I have the distinguished panel. So I have Ellinor. I'm not going to introduce the exact organizations and the positions because you can see them on the screen. But I would say that Ellinor has been in the forefront of building the Swedish deep tech ecosystem and perhaps being the voice for innovation in Sweden. So welcome. We have Angelo, who is representative for the EIC flagship program and the deep tech, which is a deep tech funder with billions deployed in different programs, essentially. Mart has been a long-time advocate for Estonian academic spin-outs, I would say, and previously also building University of Tartu's venture arm. So I would say Mart has sat in the intersection of research capital and commercialization. And last but not least, we have Andrew, who is a serial entrepreneur, for sure, an investor, a CEO, and has led several exits with regards to health tech companies, for instance. I know that Andrew has a good spot in his heart for Estonia, so I hope you can call Estonia your second home. Our mission today is to move beyond inspiration to implementation. So we'll be discussing practical examples and then having a broader European view. So Ellinor, I'll begin with you, if I may. Sweden is one of the top innovators in the world. You are really a forefront and leader in innovation policies, and also your ecosystem is really showing very good numbers. You have recently announced that you are kicking off with an initiative called Sweden Startup Nation. Can you open up a little bit? What is this initiative about? How does it contribute ventures that are tech savvy, and what is missing in Sweden in that case that you feel that you need this initiative?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So as you all know, Sweden is ranked as one of the most innovative countries in the world, and we are, especially when it comes to research. And the startup phase, maybe not so much the scale-up phase. And we're running something called the National Incubator Program, our members are. They have more than 600 companies within the program at the moment. We see more and more deep tech coming into applying to the program. And in fact, we have more than 2,000 deep tech early stage startups in the country as of right now. Mm-hmm. What we do see, though, is that they are moving away from Sweden when it's time to scale. And with all the databases we have within our organization, we think we have around 80% of the startups, but we don't know. And also what we do know is that about more than 2% of the companies that start in Sweden annually are innovative. But we don't know who they are, so we are lacking data. So that's why we initiated the Sweden Startup Nation. We aim to gather and analyze and share data about Sweden startups and scale-ups. Primarily for decision makers to make better policies for these companies to scale.
So you're trying to fix the fragmentation that you see that is happening in Sweden?
Yes, definitely. Harmonize with what's happening in the EU.
And how do you view that? How would that work? The harmonization process.
We try to be present. We've been present in the forming the startup and scale up strategy that is launched next month. So we're, but I mean, it all starts with data. So we can only do what we do in Sweden, trying to gather. That's where we are at the moment. So yeah, but we have a lot to do. But I think we're on it. I think we're on the right track.
Very good. I think that's a very good approach, data-driven approach. A little bit about SISP as well, so incubators and science parks. Perhaps can you elaborate your role in the ecosystem and of how do you help the ventures that are deep tech ventures? What kind of role do you carry in Sweden currently?
Yeah, I mean, what we do as we're the umbrella organization. What we do is we connect them, we educate them, they share experience with each other, building stronger ecosystems. And I think what's really unique in not just Sweden but in the Nordics is the trust that we share. So I think that's one way of really trying to level up. But I mean, when it comes to deep tech, there are many things that needs to be done in order to I mean, create the best conditions for the companies to not only start but to actually scale and stay in Europe at least.
I know that you have the program Ignite Sweden. Perhaps you can bring an example as that of how do you really engage the startups with corporations and investors, for instance?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the best way to help a startup is to connect them with the customer, right? So a corporate or public organization to actually, I mean, Ignite Sweden is a very qualitative process. It's a program that connects startups with customers in order for them to scale. And I think that's really, I mean, the Ignite model needs to scale throughout Europe, I think, because it's from the beginning, it started out 8 years ago. We have more than 700 commercial collaborations. So it's very successful. And it brings kind of a shift in mindset that I think corporates and public organizations need to take. I mean, if no one wants to buy the solution, it's kind of hard to scale, right? So if you're a corporate or a public organization, you really need to, if you're looking for an innovative solution, a new solution, or to buy something, buy from a startup. There's a startup for that, definitely.
I can definitely vouch for Ignite Sweden and understanding the process right now, as I've seen it up close of how nicely you deep dive into the needs of the startup and needs of the corporates and how affiliated the matchmaking process is. So thank you for that insight. I'm going to Andrew right now. So Andrew, there's this program which you've been very closely linked to. It's called the Creative Destruction Lab. And essentially, it's a mentorship program meant for deep tech startups. Can you perhaps, for the audience, can you open this program up a little bit and say what kind of a market gap does that fill in the process of becoming a successful and a scalable venture?
Sure. So Creative Destruction Lab, or CDL, was created by a guy called Ajay Agrawal. And Ajay is a professor at the Rotman School of Business in Toronto. In 2014, so a bit more than 10 years ago, Ajay made the observation that predictive analytics would be a bigger economic disruptor than the internet itself. So that's a pretty important prediction. But he also made the observation that these kinds of technologies could be used by pretty much anyone, anywhere in the world. He also said that Silicon Valley wouldn't have a monopoly on the kind of high-density, high-trust networks that translate those ideas into public companies as opposed to publications, but they have a quasi-monopoly on these networks that make that happen, okay? So the ideas are everywhere, but the networks are very concentrated in a very few places in the world. So his solution was to build a mentor network that's part of CDL, 800 people today who are entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, lawyers, people who know how to build businesses. And then partner with significant universities around the world that have really strong science and engineering departments where good ideas can come that will make use of this new technology. He asked me a few years ago if I'd help him build CDL, and I said I would, but I had one caveat. He'd have to do a CDL Estonia. He laughed. So we're 3 years into CDL Estonia, and look, the key here in terms of filling the gap is the high density, high trust, high capability networks that help people who've got really great science apply it in ways that means you can build something massive.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very good. I've seen the passion that the CDL mentors carry for a couple of years right now, and I can really vouch for their dedication, to be honest, throughout the whole program. But Andrew, you're not from, let's say, from the new Nordic region. Perhaps I can ask from a point of view of an outsider, let's put it this way, that if you look at the new Nordic region and if you look at perhaps our strengths, what would you point out? How can small countries like the Nordics and Baltics compete with the US and Southeast Asia, for instance? Because you've been here around for quite some time, you know our strengths. So what are the key moments for you that we could highlight?
Yeah, so I'll pull on this string of small country, less funded. Estonia is a very small country. And in 1992, when this country became free again and got out of the Soviet Union, you had no money, no government, no businesses, and no civic institutions. You can fast forward to 2022, that's just 30 years, and this is a country with its GDP per head that's more than Japan. That's really extraordinary. Okay, so small country, no money, wow, how did that happen? There's three things. Clarity of purpose, it's very clear what you want to do. Courage, the courage to actually do what you think needs to get done. And capability, the things that are needed to make things happen. This idea that lots of money makes you successful is, to quote Sten Tamkivi, bullshit. So no, you don't need a lot of money. You need clarity, you need courage, and you need capabilities. And there's plenty of that in the new Nordics. Super,
very glad to hear. Thank you for the clear message. Moving to Mart now. So taking it from an investor's point of view. Mart, I think you're representing the Nordic Science Investments, and they are taking a stance in really believing into our collective ambition, I would say, in the region. So you've been involved with a lot of university spin-offs as well previously. So what is your current insight? What are the biggest barriers and how to overcome them when you look at funding teams?
Yeah, and I think thinking about funding of the teams and a bit of Andrew kind of what is also pointing out is funding in some way is a kind of symptom of something which is missing there. So, and we try to think that more money solves the problem. No, that's not the way. So first of all, there's to become investment ready is about like the team and the breakthrough science. What we believe, and I think it's also Europe overall maybe underestimating the potential of the breakthrough science what we have here. So, and when we see the quality of science is there, we believe this is like the long-term competitive advantage. So you can build on that. And when you're comparing those companies with the traditional kind of consumer companies, you are spending kind of like maybe 40% of marketing, but actually kind of building the long-term competitive advantage. So this needs to be there. So if we believe this is there, then we're starting to think about who are the people who can make things happen. And quite often the definition of the great research team is not the definition of great business team. So how to build the bridge. And I think sometimes what we have seen, also the great research teams who are kind of thinking about commercialization, there is also kind of so-called best before. So if they're thinking too long time and they are not making any action, then sometimes it's too late to take the action. Even technology is there, even the potential is there, but the mindset-wise, it's not anymore possible to kind of engine-wise to get going. So I think timing is also sometimes important. So maybe one of the elements that I see that how to make the great transition from the grant funding mindset to the kind of risk capital funded mindset, and the market-driven mindset. So, and sometimes it is parallel, but also I think you're not attractive also at the beginning to create the great talents on the team. But what you can do as a great research team, you can build the space where there is room for the great talents to come in later. But sometimes what we have seen, if we're not building the space at the beginning, it's really hard to bring in the great talents later. So yes, breakthrough science, great team, and understanding the market where they're going for. So I think those needs to be there. And then I think we can start to think about how the kind of funding topics could be solved. And I think how to match it timing-wise as well. Universities having great opportunity from that point as well, that it's kind of umbrella under what you can incubate. It's safe, kind of like stable, but at the same time, when you're spinning out, it's different environment. So the spinning out timing is sometimes also very critical. So it's when to spin out is the next question. That's always we're thinking about how to help to define the right moment, readiness to do that.
Mm-hmm. So now you answered the question can I rephrase it in a way that this is also what you look at when you think of what ventures should we back? So these criteria. Or do you want to add anything to that if you really look at who to fund or who to invest into? So what is NSI's inside view?
Yeah, I think there is quite often those deep tech companies, their time to market is quite long. So it means that the trends that you rely and you believe this is the market trajectory that I'm aiming for, they have to be also pretty kind of stable. So that I could add this kind of the trend on what you bet. So, and of course, at the beginning, there might be different application for the same technology, for different industry-wise and different trend-wise, but I think you have to understand the market-wise as well and the learning loop. And what is, I think, once you are spinning out, I think how you're building your learning loop from the feedback from the market, that's also, I think, really critical. And then I think when we're thinking about additional maybe element is also those teams' coachability. So I think this is absolutely critical as well, that research is pretty competitive. The people mindset-wise, I think they want to compete, they want to be best in the research field. Once they build the business-wise, the team-wise, they have to be also coachable from that point of view. They do something first time, even they are great researchers, well kind of acknowledged that as a kind of in that domain, but the business domain, they are beginners. So how to ensure that the first-time entrepreneur-wise, they are also doing well and are good kind of listening to signals from the market. So that's I think, also very important for us.
No, absolutely. I think that's a very important point to understand whether a team is coachable or not. So you are so NSI is mostly working in or based in Finland and in Estonia. So would you say whether the Finnish market and Estonian market is coachable, and in what way?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, but what we see that all those spin-outs, they go for the global market, at least the regional market from the day one. And what we have seen also, one ingredient of great team is also their international experience. So people thinking about where go for the global market, but if they never lived abroad, they haven't seen the kind of environment that we're targeting. So it's really hard to predict how the future is going to look like. So what we really see that the more international teams are, then the higher probability is that they are succeeding as well. So I think it's a nation is like the one of the element of it, but the really capability and experience international and research it is pretty international. So I think when you have this experience also living abroad, seeing different cultures and environments, that's also gives more kind of confidence for us that this team can succeed. But overall, yes, I believe this is our part of the culture. So I think talking less, doing more. So I think that's both for Estonia and Finland competing each other. So and sometimes is one better and some another. But yes, I think we are in that top ranking.
Depends on if you're in a sauna or not, right? So.
Yes.
But moving to Angelo now and having a bit of a broader European look. So the ESG impact report just came out, last month, if I'm not mistaken. And your track record is quite impressive, actually. You supported some 700 startups and 600 research and tech transfer teams. But to bring EIC perhaps closer to our audience today, what kind of a role does EIC carry from as an institutional supporter for the deep tech commercialization process?
Yeah, to answer that, I think I can build on what Mart just said. I mean, in Estonia is a part of Europe. In Europe, we have always created really great ideas, but they were commercialized elsewhere. Skype is a very prominent example. We all still remember that. And this move from companies which actually make it towards the market and then leaving Europe based on excellent science which has been created here is, we were getting better, but we were really not quite yet there. So the EIC is designed to help solving that problem. We are an instrument which is science-based, so it's a financial instrument which targets deep tech innovation. And what we provide is, in a way, a one-stop shop that we get different instruments from very low TRL levels to start nurturing innovations which can become market creators. We do that with program managers copying what is very successful in the APA-style agencies in the US. The difference is that we have this framework program of research results behind, which is globally leading. We have always been globally leading in research. It's an extremely open research program which embraces researchers, top researchers from all over the world. It has done so for decades and very successfully so, and we want to continue that. So the EIC builds on those results. We have a very wide source of good ideas we can build on, but we try to proactively manage those ideas and then do what Mart was just saying. We're trying to help these research teams to turn their idea into a company, which, as he said rightly, there are many things which research teams are really, it's not in their DNA. They don't think financials, there are no CFOs, they don't know how to attract talent into a nascent company. The EIC helps with these things in terms of business acceleration services, as we call it. And then comes one instrument which is important in the EU context, and which is maybe the most prominent for the time being, is this accelerator in the EIC, which provides as a standard blended finance, so a grant, but equity finance, very much. Because in Europe, as you know, we still don't have that venture capital ecosystem as the US has, or maybe parts of China have. So what we do is we come in with public investment, but market-based. There is an investment decision, a private investment decision by a publicly owned fund to put some money in a financing round, which we help orchestrating with the company. And we leverage, normally the average is like 4 times the amount which we give in order to allow the company to really get the full financing round for the needs they have. As you said, we have been very successful over the last years. We hope to continue on that path, and we hope, and that relates to a bit something I discussed with Matthew before, we hope that in 10 years we don't need to be there anymore with equity publicly backed, because the venture capital system would have developed as such that we have all the thematic and well-prepared venture capitalists to accompany companies without any money, any euro of grant or public equity. Mm-hmm.
As you are a representative from the European Commission, I cannot not ask you this question. So there's been a lot of talk of EU losing its competitiveness. We are moving towards the Draghi report, but very, very slowly. You've just explained the role of EIC, but if you even think above that, so what is missing in the fragmented EU market?
I think, Kati, there are 2 things. I mean, first, we are a financial instrument, so I explained a little bit what's happening in the pipeline, what are we missing to bring people from basic research ideas, great research results to the market. So that's one thing. But the other part is really we, in Europe, we are still too, as you say, fragmented and too complex in our regulatory frameworks. That goes from taxes, corporate law, it goes into absence of regulatory sandboxes, testing opportunities. So we clearly need to get better in easing regulation for innovators. Now you have seen that in the European Commission there's a strong drive right now and with member states to make that happen. We're going to have an Innovation Act, which is the first law to facilitate across the board the life of innovators. It's going to be scheduled for next year. We have a strategy for startups and scale-ups, which is going to come out in a week or so, which should explain normally basically those two aspects. So what are we doing on the instrument side? How can we expand the EIC on the successful elements we already have? And then what do we need to do in order to make the life easier of these companies? How can the ecosystems in Europe develop to be simpler? We have a 28th regime. For the nerds among you might know what that is. It's corporate law. We don't have any single system for a corporate to be established in Europe and easy to invest in, like the famous Delaware Corps in the US. We don't have that. We have 27 member states. We need to have something which is easy to use. So 28th regime will hopefully do that. That would be next year. So there's a lot of things happening. So I hope that with powerful instruments and much simpler regulation, we'll succeed.
That would be the dream. But let's continue with the dreams. If we would, so now a question for all of the panels. What would a better alignment between the new Nordic region look like? If you think from the scientific ventures point of view. So what would be sort of the ideal of our ecosystem for them to function?
Well, I mean, I have to echo what you just said. We need better instruments, so we're very excited about the strategy coming up, the 28th regime, the EU Inc. that the nerds of you may have heard of. I think it's not just a Nordic thing. It's not a new Nordic thing. It's a European thing right now. We need things that actually we need a real single market, European market, so that there actually is a market for the startups in Europe, because there is, but there are 27 different regulatory frameworks as of right now. Very keen on what that will bring, and except for that, I mean, we definitely need to mobilize the capital. One thing that we haven't mentioned yet is that the test beds, because what you do need, deep tech companies need to validate from lab to market. It's the validation phase where most deep tech companies die. So we need to maybe a joint validation fund, harmonized with the EU funds would make a difference.
A joint validation fund.
Kati, if I can jump in here, this is very true, what Ellinor is just saying. And that's also something I think we as Europeans, we need to get much better in, linking breakthrough innovators with our corporates. So you're saying we have a fantastic fabric of industrials in Europe, across Europe. Estonia is a very small country, but you don't have to look very far to find very strong corporates. We have been terrible in embracing innovation. I spare you the examples because I don't want to blame any specific sector, but I'm German and you would know what I'm talking about. So we need to get better there, and we have a big pipeline of breakthrough innovators, as you said, already financed by the EIC. Estonia has a lot of those. Let's bring them together. When I say proactive innovation management, let's bring them together with the corporates who have the demand already, who signal to us as European Commission that they're open. They say, we have not been good. Our corporate structures are not yet made enough to be open for breakthrough innovation. Let's do more. Let's be open. So I'm very optimistic in that regard. So we're going to propose something next year already under the EIC to work much closer with corporates in Europe. It's very important indeed.
Gentlemen on the left-hand side, any comments, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that you can have a radical dream, but I think, yeah, first of all, we have to learn, and our own iteration cycles as well, that what works and what doesn't. And then the private market is really good on doing that, and private capital really quick in the learning loop wise as well, what works and what doesn't. So I think we should make better learning loops, and I think collect more data. I think what also Ellinor is saying, it's all about the data, actually. We are a bit of like having opinions and having the existing policies and try to fix existing problems, but I think how we can learn faster, and I think we have role models to that. And yeah, absolutely agree with the industrial partnership. So there is expertise, and then the new ones also can come and play together.
Andrew?
Yeah, so Angelo was fairly eloquent about pointing out that the venture capital ecosystem in this part of the world isn't as built as it should be. The first thing I'd note here is that in Estonia, the venture capital firms have aligned around a single set of documents that make it easy for everyone to understand how to invest. The next thing I'd suggest you do is align your venture capital documents entirely across the Nordic region, so there's a standard set. When you do an investment as a venture capitalist, you just say who wrote the documents, and if they say Cooley, you say good, and if they say ABCD law firm that I've never heard of, then you say get a new law firm. So alignment of documents really matters. The last point I'd make is if you really want to accelerate the new Nordics, then what you do is align your venture capital documents with the United States, because that is where 70 to 80% of the world's venture capital is, and if you want to get access to that capital, you need to align the way you invest with the way they deploy capital.
Yeah.
Please, go ahead, Ellinor.
Yeah,
last
to
remarks.
add to that, I mean, the European long-term funding, the pension funds, we need to make sure they invest in European startups, not American startups.
Yeah, but look, I mean, the point I'm making here is not that European pension funds would be investing in American startups. I'm pointing out that 80% of the world's venture capital exists in the United States. That capital is very fluid and very mobile, and if you want it to invest in European or Estonian startups, then you need to have documents that reflect the way they move money. And by the way, good luck getting European pension funds to invest in startups. They don't.
No, but I think
All right, Mart, do you want to say a concluding remark?
Yeah, I think the one is about documentation, about the investment documentation alignment, but also spinning out documentation alignment. So what we have seen out from universities, it's really easy to agree the rule of the game at the beginning of the game. So it's really hard to redefine during the game and rules. So and I think alignment of spinning out what is the best practice in the Nordics or Europe one, so that's a really good starting point. So we can start, and then all the rest documentation will come, and then capital also will come. So it's kind of step by step, but when the product is good and value proposition is good, then the capital will find it. So, and I'm pretty optimistic about it.
Well, the classic thing happened once the panel actually heated up. We need to, unfortunately, conclude here. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep on pushing for a stronger ecosystem, and please join me with thanking our wonderful panel today. Thank you.